part in 14 expeditions for 22 years in Vietnam, exploring 250 kilometers of previously unmapped caves throughout the country. He was among the first to discover the value of Phong Nha-Ke Bang and quietly contributed to UNESCO's recognition of Phong Nha-Ke Bang as a World Natural Heritage Site. In 2006, his team received certificates from Quang Binh Committee in appreciation of their work for the people of Quang Binh. In 2009, he led a team of 10 cavers to discover Son Doong Cave, which was later classified as the world's largest cave by British Cave Research Association and selected as one of the most beautiful subterranean sites on the globe by BBC News. He is Howard Limbert, a member of the British Cave Research Association.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Talk Vietnam. As you've just seen in our introduction, our guest today is Mr. Howard Limbert, and he has had a passion and a special connection with Vietnam for more than over 20 years through cave expedition and his exploration of the wonderful cave system here in Vietnam. Now, we're very lucky to have him here in our studio today to talk more about his exploration of the Phong Nha-Ke Bang cave system in Quang Binh Province and more stories as well. So please join me in welcoming Howard Limbert.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Howard, for joining us today. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
You've been caving in many countries across Mexico, Australia, parts in Europe, as well as New Zealand, many other parts. How did you come to enjoy caving, and when did you start?
I started quite young, really. When I was at school, I was 15 years of age, and I was given the opportunity of either doing athletics and cross-country running or going on outdoor activities, which included going caving, going climbing, going sailing. And I thought that was a far better opportunity than going running, so I took up caving. And we went caving in the Yorkshire Dales in England, and I was hooked on it. And the first cave we went in, I thought it was fascinating because not many people have been in these places. I thought it was very, very interesting. So I then joined a pothole club, a caving club in England, and I continued caving regular. It used to be once a week, and then I went twice and 3 times a week.
Becomes a lifelong passion, basically.
Just hooked on going caving, yeah.
And now talking about Vietnam, you came to Vietnam first in 1990, and ever since then you've made around 14 caving expeditions in all. How did you come to Vietnam? How did you come to discover about the caves in Vietnam?
I was always interested in it. I've always been looking around the world for different countries to visit because I love travelling, and I've been to Mexico, Borneo, and myself, my wife and many of our friends really wanted to go to Asia to go caving. So I wrote to a number of universities. I wrote to one in Laos, one in Burma and one in Vietnam, and we got a very positive response from Hanoi University of Science, and so they invited us along, and so we came across in 1990 as the first team that's ever been caving in Vietnam, and so we came across 10 people, joined with Hanoi University of Science.
Yes, tell us about this first expedition in conjunction with the Hanoi University of Science. Where did you go? What did you discover?
Well, when we came, we knew very little about Vietnam because nobody had ever been to Vietnam, and certainly we had no idea of the geology. And Hanoi University of Science are geologists, which was a massive, massive benefit. And they came up with an itinerary, a plan of where we should visit. So the first place we ever visited was the Ke Bang National Park. It wasn't a national park in those days, but that's the first place we visited because, again, we were very, very lucky in that 2 members of the university were born in Quang Binh, and they knew and heard of caves such as Phong Nha Cave.
Tell us about the first expedition there.
Our first expedition was in 1990. When we got down to a village called Phong Nha village, we went in a boat and they took us into the now famous Phong Nha Cave. Many, many local people had lived in Phong Nha Cave in the entrance during the American War. But we went further in the cave than anybody had ever been before, and we explored this cave for 8 kilometers, a huge river cave. It was the most exciting, most tremendous cave we'd ever visited in our lives. Wow. And it still is a wonderful cave, is Phong Nha. It's a very, very beautiful cave.
And now this Phong Nha Cave is very popular now here in Vietnam. Now, after the first visit, Howard and his team were able to explore Phong Nha Cave and uncover many of the wonderful features and values that were later featured in the Lonely Planet guidebook. Slowly, more tourists came here, and the Phong Nha-Ke Bang National Park was given the World Heritage status, and that has helped to very much improve the lives of the people living in this area, and we'll see how in the following.
It's been nearly 10 years since Phong Nha-Ke Bang National Park was recognized as a World Heritage Site by UNESCO, thanks to its geomorphic features of considerable significance. The park has attracted a total number of 3 million tourists so far, creating jobs for 2,600 local people and contributing to raising the living standards here. Son Doong Commune has become a perfect location for adventurous cavers.
Từ ngày có di sản thì ngoài cái việc bảo tồn ra thì chúng tôi đã đưa một số cái hang động vào để mà phục vụ du lịch. Thì do vậy là cái người dân địa phương được có việc làm, cũng như là triển khai một số dự án để bảo vệ di sản thì tăng cường cái nhận thức người dân và người ta hiểu rõ hơn cái cần phải bảo vệ di sản. Thì do vậy là thực sự mà nói từ ngày được công nhận di sản thế giới thì cái vườn quốc gia Phong Nha-Ke Bang là thực sự là có nhiều đổi thay, và đặc biệt là người dân là đời sống được nâng lên và cái trách nhiệm của họ bảo vệ di sản ngày càng tốt hơn.
No one can feel that difference better than the Limburgs, who have regularly traveled around Son Doong during the last 22 years.
So when we first came here in 1990, it was just a small road here and down to the ferry over the river and a few bars here. And we used to have to collect water from the river and wash in the river. And we had the committee room just here. We used to sleep in the committee room, and no Phong Nha tourists, nothing here at all. And one small war memorial over there, and that was it. It was more difficult then because we had to cook all our own food, do our washing up, and there wasn't much food in the market, so we had to bring a lot of food and sleep on the floor with mosquito nets and no electricity, no lights. Very different.
Everything's changed, but the bonds still last. Howard and his wife didn't forget to pay a visit to their longtime friend, Mai Hữu Nhung, who was the chairman of Son Doong Commune when they started caving here.
Tôi không làm việc nữa rồi, vì tuổi đã già, tóc đã bạc rồi, về với đời thường, nhưng mà rất là nhớ là ông bà này, bởi vì tuy là sống rất xa, từ châu Á đến châu Âu, nhưng mà tình cảm là vẫn rất là tốt giữa Vương quốc Anh với đất nước Việt Nam.
It really was with his help over the first 8 years that we would never manage without it. Hanoi University, Mr. Nguyen, the president, we're good friends. We've known him for a long time, and we're really happy that we could help out in any way.
This probably explains why the Limburgs have remained so attached to the country, and they still feel the mission here is just beginning.
You have been here since 1990, and obviously you've witnessed a lot of changes in this area since then. How would you say the lives of the people here have changed throughout the years, especially with the unleashing of all the tourists coming in the area?
Massively, huge changes in the lives of the people, especially in Son Doong, Phong Nha villages in the Botak district. When we first came in 1990, the people were very poor. Very little food about, no electricity, no really good sanitation, certainly no good road systems, and now massive changes, certainly in the last 5-10 years. The biggest improvement I've seen is in the health. When we originally came, there was a lot of people very sick, and in fact quite a lot of people died when we first came in 1990 with malaria. Malaria was a big problem in that area. A lot of people went into the jungle, and they often contracted malaria. Lots of mosquitoes at the time. There were lots of bomb craters from the war, which was full of water, so a lot of stagnant water, so a lot of mosquitoes. But recently, a lot of work has gone on, and there's very few cases now of malaria. So massive improvements.
Exactly, and I understand that during this first visit in 1990, obviously you came right after a lot of people had passed away in the in the area because of malaria, and later on you had helped in bringing help. Is that right?
Yes, we did, because I work in the health service back in the UK, and my speciality by chance was malaria diagnosis, and I had quite a few contacts with doctors who specialised in treatment of malaria. And again, when we came on our next expedition, we brought a consultant haematologist who specialised in malaria, and we taught 1 or 2 nurses how to diagnose and how to treat. And along with a little bit of money from tourism that was starting to slowly come into the villages, that was hopefully going to be put towards a small health centre. And just basic education made a huge difference.
Back to more about the caves.
Yeah.
During these different expeditions that you've been to Vietnam, about 14, you went with your wife and
Yes.
also your team,
Yeah.
and you were basically able to discover many of the caves that people probably hadn't been in, like Phong Nha-Ke Cave. What are some of the other caves that you were able to discover?
One of the most famous caves that we found was a cave called the Hang Vom system, which now is a tourist cave, and they now call it Paradise Cave.
The Paradise Cave.
We discovered it from the inside in 1992, and that cave is a very long cave system. Again, like Phong Nha, it's very beautiful. It's got a nice river in, and that is a very serious cave. It takes a long time to get to the end of the cave. It takes about 7-8 days to get to the end of the cave. And in 1997-98, I came along with Hanoi University, and we explored the far reaches of that cave, and that was very exciting.
We learned that in the quest to uncover the beauty of the cave system here in Vietnam, that in 2009, Howard and his British caving team, assisted by the friends from the Hanoi University of Science, were able to be the first to explore inside the world's largest cave passage in the heart of the Vietnamese jungle at Hang Son Doong, or the Son Doong Cave. Let's take a look at this very amazing discovery.
Hidden in a deep jungle of Son Trac Commune, Bo Trac District, Quang Binh Province, Son Doong Cave was classified as the largest cave in the world. The entrance to the cave was found by a local man named Ho Khanh in 1990. However, back then he was too afraid of the cave to delve inside.
Các hang động khác nó cảm thấy bình thường, nhưng hang động này khi này bước vào cửa nó là cảm thấy thay đổi không khí và người rung rợn. Vì lúc nào 24/24 lúc nào cũng có gió và sương mù. Đấy, cho nên và mình thấy dù nó móc rêu với dừng tiếng gầm của suối chảy, cho nên khả năng là hang này sẽ hang lớn.
In 2009, they discovered that the cave was more than 200 meters wide and about 150 meters high, measuring approximately 8 kilometers. Son Doong Cave was formed 2 to 5 million years ago, when a large amount of river water flowing across the limestone burrowed down along a fault, scouring out a giant tunnel beneath the mountains. The hydrologic system is somehow a mystery to scientists, as they have no idea where the water goes in the first line. The karst landscape in Son Doong Cave is an extremely complex and ancient one, with high geodiversity and some geomorphic features of considerable significance. In places where the limestone was weak, the ceiling collapsed into sinkholes, creating gigantic skylines. This tiny jungle, nicknamed the Garden of Eden, is truly a lost world to humankind, with 100-foot tall trees, lianas, and burning nettles. For cavers like the Limberts, discovering a cave as big as Son Doong is like finding a previously unknown Mount Everest underground.
how did you and your team come to know about the Son Doong Cave?
It's quite an interesting. We knew a large cave existed in that section of the jungle in Vietnam. The reason why we knew that is that we found a very large cave near Son Doong, and we knew Phong Nha was also a very large cave, and there was a gap in the map. So we knew there must be a cave, and we kept asking our guides, can you find us a cave there, because we think it'll be a very, very big cave. And a friend, one of our main guides, a man called Mr. Ho Khanh, he, as a young child, he went into the jungle searching for wood, animals and various things like that. He was very, very poor. I believe his father had died, so he was very, very poor, so he had to go into the jungle to survive, really. And he was caught in the jungle in a very, very bad thunderstorm, and so he sheltered in an alcove under a cave. While he was sheltering this alcove, he was just looking around, and he saw an entrance. Now, Hang Son Doong is not a large entrance. It's only one entrance. It's only perhaps 20 metres by 10 metres, so that is fairly small by Vietnamese standards. And he saw this cave, and in this cave he could hear a river. He could listen, he could hear a river down at the bottom, and it had a very strong wind coming out of the cave. And he thought nothing of it at all. He never went in the cave because it was a very, very steep drop.
He was younger, obviously.
He was very young, but it was impossible for him to go down because it was a very, very steep drop. So he thought nothing of it for many years. And then he joined us on expeditions when we came, and I was asking him, do you know a cave there? Any cave that have got a big wind or a river? And he said, yes, I know a cave. I found it in 1981. And he searched and searched and searched, and he couldn't find it. And he went back by himself in his own time, and it's a long walk, 2-3 days walk to the entrance. He went back and he found it. And when we came back in 2009, he came to me and met me and said, I found the cave again, would you like to go visit? I found the entrance. And so we went along, and there we are, Hang Son Doong.
Wow, so Ho Khanh could be considered as the first person to discover the cave entrance to the 2009 expedition. How did you feel coming into this huge subterranean space?
Well, nowadays we've got very, very powerful lights, and we can see many, many hundreds of meters, but Son Doong is just so big, even our new powerful lights, we couldn't see the roof, and we didn't know just how big Son Doong was. And when we found Son Doong, we didn't know it was the largest cave passage in the world. We knew it was very big, but we had no idea until we did an accurate measurement. And it's only when we did an accurate measurement of the cave, and then we looked up on the wonderful internet, and we found that it was the largest cave passage in the world.
A bit further, Jonathan.
For this expedition, they need to use a more sophisticated way of measuring the cave size. Cave surveying used to be a primitive process where everything was done by hand. Now, digital laser readings cut out the tedious legwork and provide precise measurements. They must survey every part of the cave, and every measurement must be exact to the nearest centimetre. When it comes to claiming the title World's Biggest Cave, it's length, height and breadth that counts for Limbert and his team. The laser sends a beam across to a designated point called a survey station, which sims marks with a small light disc. They measure distance, height and angle. It's painstaking work.
29.9 minus 3, 099. Left side.
The laser beam picks out the highest point in this section of the cave. It measures 100 meters. The Statue of Liberty could fit in here quite comfortably, with 7 meters to spare. The widest section surveyed so far is 103 meters. This passage continues for another kilometer. Room for a small plane to fly through the cave, or even a whole display team.
For someone, obviously not many people will have been, you are the only expedition team who have been in this cave. How would you describe it I mean, I saw it in the movie. Americans would describe it with the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
French would use the Eiffel Tower. But for our Vietnamese audiences, how would you describe
For a Vietnamese audience, whoa, very difficult. I don't know any large enough buildings, but I would say most of the skyscrapers that you see around Hanoi now, that'll be the sort of size that we're talking about, the height, the maximum height of the passage.
Yes.
It's an enormous cave, and until you've been there, you cannot appreciate the scale. And what is really special about Son Doong, apart from its enormous size, it's got two very, very important, unique features, and they are these skylights.
Yes.
Along the Great Tunnel in Vietnam, in Hang Son Doong, are two skylights where the roof has collapsed. Many, many years ago, the roof has collapsed because it's such a large cave. It's just collapsed as a roof.
A lot of pressure on it.
And it's allowed daylight to come in.
Yes.
And what's amazing about Hang Son Doong, in these daylight sections, there is a forest, there's a jungle inside.
Photosynthesis has been able to kind of develop photosynthesis.
Oh yes, there's enough light comes in to find very, very large trees. In one section of the cave, which we call the Garden of Eden, there are trees that are 60 metre tall.
60 meters tall.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's been there for a really long time.
Oh yes.
Here is an area rich with life, a unique and unexplored ecosystem.
This is absolutely fantastic. It's a treasure trove for biologists. And everything that lives here has got here by complete chance. So birds have dropped seeds, plants have sprouted up.
And they must manage to flourish in a different world from the rainforest they came from. Here it's darker, more protected from the wind. The floor of the Doleen is made up of porous limestone rubble from the collapsed roof. Less light and little water means these plants have had to evolve new strategies to survive.
This species outside is evergreen.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
But here it's fall down the leaf in the winter, I think so.
Okay, so you think it's evergreen outside, but it's deciduous in here. And so the young leaves are those, the red leaves? Are those young leaves? Okay, right. In particular in plants, their outer form is very variable. They can adapt themselves very much to their environment. So there could be two plants that are perfectly the same species, have the same DNA, but because they're in a different environment, they actually look quite different. That's the plasticity bit. So I think we're seeing an example of spectacular phenotypic plasticity.
Howard, we have some photos here of the different cave system in Phong Nha-Ke Bang. Tell us about this particular cave.
This cave is called Ang En, Swift Cave, which
Hang
we
En.
discovered in 1994. As you can see, it's a very, very large and beautiful cave. And you must go through this cave to get to Hang Son Doong.
Oh, okay.
It's the only route to Hang Son Doong is to go through this cave. You go through this cave, follow the river for about 2 kilometres, up, down, climbing, and then you get to the entrance to Hang Son Doong.
Tell us a little bit about this one.
Right. This is a picture that was taken by Karsten Peter, the National Geographic photographer. Really, really beautiful shot. This is in Hang Son Doong. This is one of the large underground dark chambers in Hang Son Doong. And this photograph took 5 hours to take.
5 hours?
5 hours to take that photograph.
Wow.
There's many, many people in there. There's probably 15 people with very, very powerful lights to light up this. And it's
5 hours.
5 hours to take a photograph.
Wow. And where in particular is this? Is this within the 5 kilometers that it takes to get to the Great Wall of Vietnam?
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct.
Wonderful. And how about this one?
Yeah, this one is a very interesting one. That's my wife on top of that stalagmite
That's Debbie.
there. That's Debbie, yes. And the distance from my wife to the daylight there is 1.5 kilometres.
1.5 kilometers?
It takes about an hour, 2 hours to walk to the daylight.
Wow.
I know it doesn't seem far.
It doesn't.
This was taken with a telephoto lens, but this is a very large part of the cave, and it's amazing scale in this cave.
And the very interesting calcite formation is
Beautiful, fantastic calcite formation stalagmites. This one is one of the tallest, if not the tallest in the world. We've measured this at over 75 metres tall. That's very, very large.
And we know that Howard and his caving team for more than the past 20 years has received the assistance from the Faculty of Geography from the Hanoi University of Science, and they've been working together and developing a very great friendship, and we'll take a look at this cooperation in the following.
Today, Howard and his wife are visiting the Hanoi University of Science for a discussion ahead of their 15th expedition in Vietnam. The Faculty of Geography is a familiar place since they have been cooperating with the scientists here for the last 2 decades. Together, Vietnamese and British cavers have been researching in many areas of the country, including Hà Giang, Cao Bằng, Sơn La, Ninh Bình, Thanh Hóa, and Quảng Bình mostly, to gain a complete understanding of limestone areas and the country's cave systems.
Trong các đợt khảo sát thực địa thì các nhà khoa học giữa Việt Nam và các nhà khoa học về hang động của Anh thì đã đo vẽ được khoảng 250 km về hang động đối với toàn bộ lãnh thổ Việt Nam. Và đặc biệt một cái điều đáng ghi nhận là các nhà khoa học đã cùng nhau để xây dựng ra cái hồ sơ về di sản thiên nhiên thế giới Phong Nha-Ke Bang. Mục tiêu là nhằm giới thiệu thiên nhiên cảnh quan của Việt Nam với bạn bè của 5 châu trên thế giới.
Howard took time to recall the memories shared by the faculty scientists in the early days. Each and every picture brought him a different story about those who were with him on those unforgettable expeditions.
Nghiên cứu hang động nó gặp phải một cái khó khăn rất là đáng kể đối với người Việt Nam. Khi mà được người ta có cái ý đồ vào cái thì chúng tôi lập tức đây là một cơ hội để chúng ta tiếp cận với cách thức nghiên cứu hang động của người nước ngoài và sử dụng cùng với người ta đó cái hệ thống thiết bị, từ là khảo sát trong hang, từ là chụp ảnh, tất cả mọi thứ, và mình học đó được rất nhiều.
For the first time in the long history of cooperation, an official memorandum of understanding between the British Cave Research Association and Hanoi University of Science was signed, marking a new level of mutual support between the two institutions.
Với cái sự ký kết này thì chúng tôi nghĩ rằng trong tương lai chúng tôi sẽ tiếp tục hoạt động, tiếp tục cộng tác với nhau chặt chẽ hơn nữa để mà khám phá ra nhiều điều kỳ thú và bí ẩn của các cái hang động Việt Nam.
Now, as you've seen in the previous clip, Howard and his team are assisted by his good friends from the Hanoi University of Science, the Faculty of Geography. In our show today, we have the very honor of welcoming Associate Professor Nguyễn Hiệu, who is also the Deputy Dean of the Faculty of Geography, to join us and share his stories. And now, Dr. Hiệu is also taking the lead within the efforts to assist Howard and his team in future endeavors and expeditions. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Hiệu to our show. Could you please share with us about your current role in the assistance to Howard and his team?
Cùng Howard là cùng một đội, bởi vì là đấy là một cái chương trình hợp tác của giữa Hội hang động Hoàng gia Anh với cả bên trường khoa học tự nhiên, là cụ thể là khoa địa lý nơi tôi công tác. Cho nên là khi làm việc thì chúng tôi là trong cùng một đội.
How long have you yourself been working in this project, since the beginning, since 1990 or later on?
Không, thực sự tôi bắt đầu tham gia cùng với đoàn là từ năm 1997 sau khi mà tốt nghiệp, và cho đến nay là được 15